these disclaimers to be empty gestures, I omitted the old wheeze that any resemblance is purely coincidental. If you wanted to think that Sammy Glick was your boss or your nemesis or yourself, that was for you. As Somerset Maugham had written, in behalf of all the writers accused of literary assault and battery, no author can create a character out of nothing. He must have a model to give him a starting point. I had no lack of models when I first began sketching Sammy for a series of short stories in 1937. Fresh from college, and inclined to talk too much for a writer anyway, I happened to give a quasi-friend and quasi-screenwriter a literal answer to his casual cocktail party question, "What are you working on?" In my innocence, I described a little film story I was blocking out. A few days later, I had the good fortune to read in a movie column of the sale of my little idea, credited to the fast-moving passerby who had seemed to be listening so sympathetically. I say good fortune, for this mishap launched me both on a hobby and a career. When I complained of my misadventure to fellow scenarists, they shrugged it off with the observation that my wound was a mere scratch compared to any number they had suffered. I began to wonder if every scrupulous screenwriter didn't have a Sammy in his life. I put down everything I heard about the credit hounds, the shoplifters who had learned how to loiter around the idea counter. Notes on at least 24 quicksters went into my workbook. That's why I can never honestly affirm or deny when I'm asked, "Wasn't it really Willie Blank?" It was, and it wasn't. What I had, when I read through my notebook, was not a single person, but a pattern of behavior. The job was, as the job of writing always is, to recognize that pattern, to humanize it, and then to try and understand it. Another kind of reader Sammy was apt to hear from was the fellow who said, "Of course we know that Hollywood has its Sammy Glicks, but why must you write about them? After all, we also have plenty of decent, generous, and gifted people. Why don't you write about them?" If you think of the novel as a kind of literary census-taking, with so many chapters devoted to so many decent people, and so many words to so many heels, they are right, of course. There were French Philistines, passing as literary critics, who protested against Flaubert. Why does he devote a whole book to a selfish, willful, immoral, hysterical woman like Madame Bovary? Do we not have fine, upstanding, respectable women in the provinces more worthy of immortality? Not by the widest stretch of vanity am I presuming to have written a Bovary, or to shine in the reflected brilliance of the French master. But the crime of which he was accused, indeed for which he had to stand trial before a court of justice, raises a similar question of literary morality. And not only is Flaubert's answer my answer, but that of every serious writer from Defoe to Faulkner. I committed this character to public attention because I found significance in him or her. Such heroes and heroines of negativism as Julian Sorel, Emma Bovary, George Babbitt, Julian English, and Sammy Glick are symptoms that warn of some malaise in their society. I tried to suggest Sammy's as a way of life that was paying dividends in the first half of the 20th century. It would be comforting to believe that the inverted morality of the book is outdated. I am frequently asked, are there still Sammys in Hollywood? And the answer must be, of course, though such naked aggression as I have treated may be hopefully on the wane. But the Sammy drive is still to be found everywhere in America, in every field of endeavor, and among every racial group. It will survive as long as money and prestige and power are ends in themselves, running wild, unharnessed from usefulness. An extra literary criticism that Sammy has had to face, and which I would like to head into directly here, is that of anti-Semitism. An odd axis of reactionary hush-hushers and propaganda-minded communist litterateurs raised quite a hue and cry along this line. I said at the time, and even the genocidal 40s has not altered my opinion, that I despised anti-Semitism, not because I happen to be Jewish myself, but because I have always